So today I'm here to talk to you about the Knowledge to Action granting program, which SAGE turned into a series of micro-grants. And specifically, I'm going to talk to you about 3 programs that we funded through the series of micro-grants. So the first one I'll talk to you about is the Rashid Mosque's Senior Ladies Cookbook. So part of what's great about this initiative is sometimes people just need the slightest bit of belief in their project, or even just have a moment of being witnessed that, hey, your idea is great. And that helps them create the motivation to keep going with their idea. So the Seniors Women's Cookbook at the Rashid Mosque was started by a woman named Selma Karut. And Selma had this really great idea for 2 years, just rattling around in her brain, oh, it'd be such a good idea if these women could document their journey of immigrating to Canada through recipes. Because through the process of moving to Canada, these women from the Rashid Mosque were senior women, they found that they had to adapt how they cooked. They had to make adaptations and find new ways the recipes could live. So I thought that was quite interesting. In addition to that, the women who do participate at the Rashid Mosque in the senior women's group, a lot of them did come to Canada up to 20 years ago. And their experiences in that migration process, their sacrifices and their resilience are sort of lost on their grandkids, who kind of take everything for granted. Take it for granted that you can just go pick up vine leaves, grapevine leaves, and make whatever you want. These women used to have to smuggle in grape leaves, and when one would get a batch, they'd all gather in someone's garage and begin cooking. I had a picture of a woman making bread in her garage. So there were processes like that, where the whole community would come together and cook bread in the garage. And the kids of this, the grandchildren, are losing these stories, these narratives, and also the narrative of resilience of their grandmothers. So we did partner with them and started with a very tiny micro-grant for this cookbook series. And what was wonderful is the cookbook not only developed into a cookbook with all these women participating, sharing their stories with youth, but they also got another grant to do small documentaries about it. So it attracted other attention to this community, and the women started to sort of gain this sense of pride. Not that they didn't have it before, but it was something that instilled in them a bit more belief. And Selma herself was very proud of this idea. So that's just sort of one feel-good moment. So when you find yourself sitting around a table trying to make things happen in a boardroom and everything seems impossible, I like to think about stories like this where there's small successes that reverberate through communities. The second project I'd like to talk about is the Abbot School Books and Board Games program. This one is a very successful little project. Again, they received the tiniest micro-grant just to buy some board games and supplies for a group of seniors who had gone into a school to read to kids. Now, this particular school has communities, children who are recently from refugee camps. They have a lot of Indigenous children and many others. The kids suffer from quite a bit of trauma, perhaps, in their past, so it is a trauma-informed school. The very tiny micro-grant they received blossomed into a beautiful program where the seniors began to learn about what is trauma-informed practice. And through this, the seniors also began to educate their peers. Not only that, the children really began to feel there's a bond that's built between the children and the seniors, where it's a way of really being welcomed into a community where it's not always necessary that you feel welcome in a community when you've immigrated recently or you are othered or marginalized. It also allows the children to feel resilient as well as the seniors. Often, both seniors and young folks can be othered, marginalized, disrespected in their own communities. And in this program, we see these two groups coming together with a lot of respect, the seniors feeling a great sense of worth. One woman in particular, Audrey Pelche, taught kids how to crochet, And in particular, they found this was very useful for some of the students who had trouble sitting. Students who had recently moved from refugee camps and maybe were acting out, they actually were able to sit and just crochet with Audrey. So this was a very successful program. Not only that, but one of the seniors in particular, Ron Nichols, took it upon himself to completely educate himself and carry this torch. And this program runs itself now, years later, without any funding, other than the funds that Ron raises through the Rotary Club. He also organizes the entire school with their new Canadian parents to go on huge field trips to Fort Edmonton Park or the zoo. So he single-handedly, from this tiny bit of belief, this tiny bit of momentum, takes up this whole program, and it's a huge benefit, not just to the students, but the entire community, the entire Abbot School community, which is really great. The last program I will talk to you about is the South Clareview Seniors Hub. Again, these folks received one small grant, and the idea came from a community conversation. What would benefit this neighborhood? What would you like to see here? Just a few questions, and also asking, of course, what are the assets? What are your gifts? And these folks decided, well, Nessa's pretty far away, and we have this great center here. How can we access this center? What can we create here? And through this process, from one tiny conversation, one tiny grant to buy some coffee and some games to support this initiative, they received a huge government grant, a New Horizons grant. They recently had a grand opening. And what started as a tiny idea blossomed into a larger community initiative where all the surrounding communities are able to access that center. Not only that, they have walking programs, a coffee group, of course. They spun off into an amazing elders series where adults come together and learn about topics they're interested in. Reading programs at the Sifton School. So they have all of these programs, not only that, but the neighboring communities of Beacon Heights, Bannerman, Fraser, they're all coming together to the center that's closer than Nessa. Oh, and it's also free, so it's accessible. So that's a really great example of just a tiny bit of witnessing, I'll call it, or injection into an idea that leaves folks feeling respected, engaged in their community, and like their gifts actually are important, which they are. I think Michael was talking about that, and I couldn't agree more, that these wisdoms and these gifts that older adults have to give to their communities must be supported and encouraged and allowed to flourish. Thanks.